Okay, I think it's time to start now. So, welcome to this seminar. It's a special one because it's the number 10 in the sequence. And today we have as our speaker, Antonio Abreu. For those of you that do not know Antonio, so Antonio did his PhD in our university. Currently, he is professor at the Polytechnic Institute of Lisbon, but he is an integrated member of our research center. And today he will talk about graph theory in collaborative networks. And after his presentation, as usual, we'll have a period for discussion and questions and answers. And this period will be moderated by Anabela Pronto. So, Antonio, please, you can start.
Okay, I will share my slides. Okay.
Yeah,
it's okay. So I hope you are listening well. Good afternoon to all. And first of all, I'd like to thank the invitation. And I would like to say that it is a pleasure for me to participate in this seminar because I have the opportunity to share with you the work that I have been doing in terms of research. The topic of this section is related to the hidden power of graph theory to understand collaborative networks. So, in terms of agenda, in this seminar, I will talk about these 4 topics. I will start with a short introduction about business today and the advantage of cooperation or collaboration. So I would like to mention for the purpose of this seminar, the meaning of cooperation and collaboration concepts are similar. On the second point, I will discuss the main concepts of social network analysis. That is a branch of graph theory. On the third point, I will show you 2 models based on social network analysis, the benefits model and an open innovation model in order to support the governance of cooperative networks. On the fourth point, as a challenge in terms of next steps, I will show you how we can model based on graphs the evolution of the network, taking into account the motion or the behaviors of the network members. And the last but not the least, I will finish this section emphasizing some conclusions and remarks. So, in order to characterize the business market today at a glance, I use the phase diagram from thermodynamics as a metaphor. And as you can see here, you have defined in this diagram the condition for the existence of 3 states of matter, solid, liquid, and gas, as function of the pressure and temperature condition. Where, for instance, at the low temperature, you have the solid state, and at high temperature, you have gas. So, adapting this diagram from thermodynamics to business management, you need, of course, to do some change. And if we replace the pressure by business opportunities and the temperature by threats, you have on the left side a stable business environment. That corresponds to the solid state, where in this case the number of rivals is limited and in some situation could be null. So in this context, an enterprise has many business opportunities and a low number of threats. On the other hand, on the right side of this diagram, we have a turbulent socioeconomic context where the level of competition is extremely high. In this context, the number of business opportunities is low and the number of threats is high. So in this scenario, it means that organization must respond quickly to market needs, and the cooperation strategy or collaboration is one way for organization to stay alive. So in terms of motivation, as a starting point, based on recent studies and reports, there are a clear consensus that enterprises in the global market have to achieve high levels of performance and competitiveness. And in my opinion, of course, is the need by enterprise to achieve high levels of performance and competitiveness that is the key element to promote the big bang of cooperation or collaboration. For instance, over the time, the product life cycle is getting shorter and shorter, and in order to achieve this goal, the enterprise have two strategic options: develop their needs working alone by their own assets and making sometimes high investments, or based on a cooperative process, and in this case, the enterprise need to establish working together relationship with other enterprise, where they share some assets, like, for instance, market, technology, knowledge, and so on. In this way, this slide shows some cooperative advantage and potential benefits that works as a motivation to promoting collaborative process. For instance, in terms of costs, based on a cooperative process, the benefit of cost reduction can be obtained. And for instance, in terms of risk, once again, based on a cooperative process, it is possible to share risks and mitigate also some risks. And based on the cooperative process, it is also possible to increase the flexibility, agility, and so on. However, there are also bad news. There are some difficulties, and in my opinion, there are a lot of difficulties that need to be overcome. So, according to several reports and studies, for instance, taking into account these two reports, according to the first one, the percentage of business partnership fail rate is about 80%. So it's huge. And the percentage, according to this one, the second one, the percentage of fail rate in an open innovation context goes from 40 to 70%. So it means there are risks, and this is a big limitation for a wider dissemination of this paradigm. So in this context, what we are trying to understand. I like this picture very much because it is a good metaphor for cooperative or collaborative networks. As you can see here in this picture, the power of cooperation or collaboration, where small fishes working together can fight against a big one. And for example, if you change the small fishes by small and mid enterprise, you can convince manager or small and mid enterprise that is possible, based on a collaborative process, to fight against a big company and win, like, for instance, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and so on. And in order to contribute to this reality, our proposal is trying to understand and model the principles of cooperation in order to support the emergence of cooperative ecosystem in a sustainable way. And for that, it is necessary first to find good answers to several questions, like, for instance, this one. Are there real benefits for me to be involved in a cooperative network? What will my organization benefit from embarking in a cooperative network? Will the benefits compensate for the extra overhead and even the risk that cooperation implies? How can the risk be measured in a cooperative network? What is the level of performance of my partners in a cooperative process? How to promote a cooperative behavior in a sustainable way? Is my network doing well? What are the factors that facilitate or constrain the open innovation in a sustainable way? What is the role of a network member in the innovation chain? And last one, what is the role of an open innovation network, for instance, in terms of capacity for generating new ideas, processes, and products, and so on? I will show you some answers to these questions applying concepts of graph theory. However, as a starting point, what is a graph? And for the purpose of this seminar, as you can see here on the left of this slide, a graph is a set of nodes that are connected by links. And as you can see here on the right, in the cooperative network, you have several dimensions where in each dimension, it is possible to identify several types of networks. For instance, in this picture, you have at this dimension the cooperative network, and also at this dimension, you have a cooperative project network. So, assuming that in the cooperative network, the main entities as a first approach are enterprise, knowledge, research, projects, and tasks. So, in a cooperative network or collaborative network, you can identify and analyze 9 types of networks, at least, as you can see here in this table. Where, for instance, in this dimension, enterprise versus enterprise, you can model the cooperation network or benefits network. And in this case, you can analyze, for instance, who talks to, who works with, and who reports to who. Or, for instance, in this dimension, enterprise versus knowledge, you can model the competence network. And in this case, you can analyze who knows what, who has what expertise or skills. And another example, according to this dimension, knowledge versus research, you can model the knowledge network, and in this case, you can analyze, for instance, what type of knowledge is needed to use that research, and so on. However, when you talk about cooperation, you are mainly talking of relationship among several entities. And the use of social network analysis, that is a branch of graph theory, in my opinion, has mainly 3 main advantages. The first one is this one. The theory of social network is based on concepts of graph theory, and it makes possible to analyze properties related to social structure. The second one is related to the existence of a mathematical formalism. And the last but not the least, the graphical representation of data associated with graphs allows detecting patterns, and this is an important issue that you'll see later. Furthermore, from graph theory, there are also several metrics that can be used where the most common are node degree, that measure the activity of an actor in the network density, that measure the level of cohesion among nodes that make up the network, and the last one, the centrality, that measure the visibility of an actor. The centrality can be measured indicators, central actors, betweenness actors, closeness actors, and peripheral actors. And for instance, using the concept of graph, you can mapping the evolution of the cooperative network over time, as you can see here in this picture. For instance, in this situation, from T to T plus 1, you have a process of growth of this network, and here, in this case, you have a merging process, and here, in this case, you have a splitting process of this network. So, one important concept for the emergence of cooperative behavior, as I said on previous slide, is the identification of the benefits by each member in the cooperative network. For that, he developed a model based on the social network analysis departing from these assumptions. The concept of benefit has the same meaning as utility or net profit. The benefit are the output of performing a task with success. The benefit are assumed as abstract quantifiable measurement, and an important point is the meaning of benefit depends on the value system. For instance, in a network of enterprise, the benefits represent economic values, and on the other hand, in the NGO, the benefits could represent a more abstract indication of social prestige or peer recognition. So, in this approach, you define three main types of benefits, as you can see here: self-benefits, receive benefits, and contribute benefits. And based on graph theory, it is possible to model this type of benefits by this way. For instance, we have here the representation of self-benefits. In this case, an example of received benefits, and the last one, an example of a contribute benefits. And it can be measured, its type of benefits, applying this equation. As you can see here, is one for self, and this for receive, and the last one for contribute benefits. And based on these three types of benefits, as you will see in the next slides, you can build several types of benefits networks. So this slide shows some types of benefits networks, where you have one example of a cycle network and two examples of cycle network, where in the first case you have a decentralized network, where the sustainability of this network is based on indirect reciprocity mechanism. And in the second case, you have a centralized network, where the suitability of this network is based on, in this case, in a direct reciprocity mechanism. Furthermore, you can also identify cycle networks type short and cycles network type 1, where, for instance, in this case, actor A has the power to decide which one of those two actors, G or K, to decide which one of those two actors will provide a task benefit. And in those two types of cycle network type 1, you have two scenarios. In the first one, the actor A provide benefits for two actors, G and K, and receive benefits from only one actor, this one. And in this second scenario, the actor I provide benefits for others too, and in this case, receive benefits from this one and also from this one. Furthermore, applying metrics from graph theory, it is possible to generate several performance indicators of cooperation, as you can see here in this picture, a short list. And based on those indicators, it is now possible looking to a cooperative network according to several perspectives, as you can see here, for instance, according to prestige, perspective, social credit, social contribution benefits, social credits, external benefits, and so on. Furthermore, it is also possible to define some principles and rules, such as this one, in order to support the sustainability of a cooperative network. And according to this principle, we have in this case, in a sustainable cooperation network, at least in the long term, the social contribution benefits of an actor shall be greater than 0, otherwise the actor will be considered selfish. So now I will show you two case studies where this benefits model was applied. The first one was applied in a cluster of small and medium enterprise, Virtual Fabric. It has more than 100 enterprises, and this cluster has several competencies in several fields, as you can see here, some of them. So, applying the benefits model, this slide shows the value of transaction among members of this network. The period of time under study was 1 year, and in this case, the node size represents the contribution value. It means what an actor, in this case, an enterprise, contribute to others, and the liquid represents the value of the benefits supplied. So, in this case, we can identify that the major contributors are this enterprise, enterprise 16, and also enterprise 58. This slide shows another perspective of this work. Here, the node size represents the sum of benefits received by each member from the network, and the liquid represents the value of the benefit supplied by one member to another. So, looking to the graph, in this case, we receive more benefits where enterprise 13, 10, and 11, and this one also 90. Based on this indicator, that is the reciprocity index over this period of time, and looking to this network on the left, you can easily identify that enterprise, in this case 58, 16, exhibit altruistic behavior once that they contribute much more benefits than they receive. On the other hand, looking to this network, you have enterprise 11, 53, and 17, for instance, exhibit potentially selfish behavior once that they receive much more benefits than they contribute to other members of this network. This graph shows another perspective of this network. In this case, in terms of the level of prestige of each enterprise. So, based on social network analysis, the level of prestige of an actor is related to the number of connections that an actor holds. So, in this network, who has more prestige is enterprise 10. As you can see, this enterprise has a lot of connections. This graph shows us who is most involved in cooperative process, and in this case, looking to node size, identify this enterprise. I suppose it is 26, and also this one 10, and it means they are the most active in this network. This is another case study. In this case, you have a cooperative network of people. This study was applied to time bank. So in this case, the benefits are the quantity of time that is exchanged among people, and the cooperation benefits is given by the number of hours of help that one person got from another. Applying the benefits model again, this slide shows the evolution of the cooperative activities over time. And as you can see here, the cooperative behavior was increased from time T1 to time T2, because in time T2, we have more connections among members. And this one showed evolution from time T1 to time T2, but now in terms of actor prestige. For instance, in time T1, the actor with high prestige is this one, 2000, and now in time T2, we have several actors with high prestige, like for instance, 2000, 2011, and 2005. However, going deeper in the concept of cooperative benefits, in the cooperative environment with the evolution of cooperative forms, you have, for instance, a continuous and repetitive interaction among partners, access to new or either markets, new knowledge, and so on. So, in this context, the value in terms of benefits generated by a cooperative process is determined by two types of assets. Tangible assets, based on economic aspects and are given by product or service supply, and also intangible assets based on the relationship among members, and in this case, you have the concept of social capital. So, according to literature, and for instance, based on these three definitions, according to the first one, according to Bourdieu, social capital is the aggregate of the total or potential research which are linked to possession of a durable network. According to the second one, according to Portes, social capital is the ability of actors to secure benefits by virtue of membership in social network or other social structure. And the last one, according to Idler, social capital does comprise both the network and the assets that may be mobilized through that network. So you can conclude that the notion of social capital is connected to the relationship that are established within the network. However, if we compare these two concepts, social capital versus economic capital, you can conclude that in terms of management, social capital is similar to economic capital. It means that both can be invested with expectation of future benefits, and both can be convertible in other assets. However, in terms of source, social capital is different from economic capital. Social capital is connected to the relationship that are established within the network, and economic capital arises at the member level. So, this is an important remark. Social capital cannot be traded by enterprise on an open market like economic capital, but exclusively within a network. So, in order to measure the social capital in a collaborative context, it depart from this assumption the social capital of an enterprise is related to the level of health of the relationship that it establishes with other enterprise within a network, and based on that assumption and applying, of course, concepts from graph theory, he developed this model. According to this model, you have two types of maps or graphs. A map of business contact. In this network, the nodes are on enterprise, and the link with represents the level of health between two enterprise. And the level of health can be measured using this equation, as you can see here. On the other hand, in terms in the map of enterprise assets, we have, in this case, two sets of nodes, enterprise and assets, and the link represents a relation of ownership or access relation. So, departing from these two types of maps, you can generate aggregate maps. And based on these maps, it is now possible to analyze the social capital of each enterprise according to different perspectives, as you can see here, for instance, according to research perspective, knowledge perspective, and the last one, according to market perspective. So, based on this model, in terms of assessment, we identify three types of metrics to measure the social capital of an enterprise that are the first one, the partial social capital, and this value corresponds to the social capital of an enterprise under a single perspective, and it can be measured applying this equation. The second one, the effective social capital, that corresponds to the social capital that an enterprise uses in carry out its activities. And the last one, you have the total social capital that corresponds to the maximum social capital that an enterprise can get from the network. And again, you can, in this case, you have this equation to measure it. On the other hand, based on this model, we generate two types of performance indicators. Indicators for analyze the relationship among enterprise, and also indicators for analyze the assets. And this slide shows a list of indicators that were built. On the left, you have a list of indicators for analyze the relationship among enterprise, and on the right, you have a list of asset indicators. In order to illustrate the potential application of this model, let's suppose this scenario. In this scenario, you have a network of 7 enterprises, where this network illustrates a hypothetical representation of this cooperative network. And these links here are the business contact, and in this case, the level of health is identical for all enterprises. Furthermore, in this scenario, you'll suppose there are 3 types of assets: knowledge, research, market with this dissemination. And for instance, in terms of research, you have this map where, in this case, as you can see here, for instance, research 2 is shared at the same time by enterprise 4 and enterprise 7. And for instance, enterprise 4 has this research 4 that is exclusive in this network. So in the next slides, you analyze the social capital according to which one of those three perspectives. So if you now merge the business map and the knowledge map, you get this aggregate map. In this case, you can analyze the social capital according to the innovation perspective. And for instance, in this case, as you can see here, enterprise 5 and enterprise 1 may have access to this knowledge, that is an exclusive knowledge that belong to enterprise 7 by enterprise 7. And for instance, based on a reciprocity mechanism, enterprise 7 may have access to knowledge 3 and 2 by enterprise 5, and in the same way may have access to knowledge 1 by enterprise 1. Now this aggregate map illustrates social capital from market perspective, and for instance, as you can see here, enterprise 7 in this network has the monopoly of this market 3, and enterprise 5 and enterprise 1 may have access to this market, of course, by enterprise 7. And on the other hand, enterprise 7 may have access to this market 1 by enterprise 1. This aggregate map shows the social capital from the capacity perspective, and for instance, enterprise 2 has only this research 1, and by enterprise 4 may have access to research 4 and research 2, and in this case, by enterprise 5 may have access to research 3. So, and applying a reciprocity mechanism, enterprise 4 may have access to this research by enterprise 2, and also may have access to this research 3 by enterprise 5. However, another important issue for the big bang of collaborative networks, and it is nowadays our topic, is the open innovation. Because recent studies point out that a growing number of innovations that are introduced in the market came from network of enterprise. On the other hand, at a macro level, in a collaborative process, the value generated by an open innovation environment depends on the synergy created that may lead to the reinforcement of innovation flow, and also the knowledge that may be mobilized through other enterprises. So, the innovation output in a collaborative context, for instance, depends on the type of relationship that are established among members within the collaborative network, type of mechanism that support the knowledge transfer between enterprise, and also the principles and rules in terms of competence management that may facilitate or constrain the innovation process. So, in order to identify partners of innovation in a collaborative context, it depart from this assumption. The contribution of an enterprise to an open innovation process is related to the level of relationship that it establishes with other enterprise within a network. And based on this assumption and applying concepts from graph theory, it developed this model, as you can see here. According to this model, you have two types of maps. And in the first one is a map of collaboration. In this case, in this network, the nodes are on enterprise, and the link width represents the level of collaboration between two enterprises, and the level of collaboration can be measured applying or using this equation. And we have also here a map of competencies. This graph shows the type of competence held by each enterprise and all the competences are shared by each enterprise. In this case, we have two sets of nodes, enterprise and competencies, and in this case, we define three sets of competencies: basic research or science, technical and business competence. And the nodes are connected by access relationship. Based on those two types of maps, you can generate aggregate maps. In this case, we have innovation perspective maps, and based on these maps, it is now possible to analyze the innovation perspective of each enterprise and the open innovation network according to different dimensions or perspectives, as you can see here: basic research or science perspective, technical perspective, and business perspective. So, based on these three perspectives, basic research or science, technical, and business, it is possible to identify 7 types of open innovation network according to their focus. There are open innovation networks where its focus is mainly on one perspective, this one, basic research, technical, or business, and there are also mixed open innovation networks. For instance, in this case, you have a science and technical, and this one, the technical and business, and in this case, science and business. In order to illustrate the potential application of this model, let's suppose an open innovation network where you have 8 organizations, and also let's suppose this map of collaboration where, in this example, the level of collaboration among enterprise when is not null is identical for all enterprise. In this example, let's suppose this network has 3 types of competencies with this type of dissemination. So it means that in terms of partners, it is a mixed co-innovation network that cover all innovation chain from basic research to market. However, looking to this map in terms of basic research, only Enterprise 1 and Enterprise 2 have competence in this field, and both enterprises have exclusive competencies. Basic research for in case of Enterprise 1 and basic research 1 in case of Enterprise 2. So, and in terms of market, for instance, only Enterprise 2 doesn't have any competence in this domain. Most of the enterprise have access to market 2, and Enterprise 8 has an exclusive access to market 1. From a technical perspective, you have 3 enterprises that do not have any technical competence. In this case, is Enterprise 1, 7, and 8. So, we apply this model in a real context at Brisa Enterprise. Brisa, as you know, is the largest operator of highways in Portugal. The Brisa core business is monitoring and management highways, and Brisa Open Innovation Network is a long-term cooperative network that has more than 30 members from several domains and business activities. The goal of this study was characterize the type of open innovation network and the potential of innovation, and it focused our study into main innovation projects developed inside the BRISA network. The ETOL project, Electronic Tooling System, and the ALPR project, Advanced License Planned Recognition. The empirical data were collected based on two main sources, interview with key participants belong to the network, and also indeed questionnaires addressed to all members. Based on the data collected, this graph illustrates the full picture of this network, where you can conclude the partners in this network is a mix between basic research and technical. And looking to the graph, you can also identify, for instance, organization 1 is the one with the greatest number of distinct competencies, and another example, most of the enterprise in this network have exclusive technical competence like the enterprise 3, 5, and enterprise 6. Going deeper in the concept of open innovation, he developed a new model using graphs based on this three assumptions. Generalize the classical chain linked model of innovation, accommodate the concepts of the 4th edition of the Oslo Manual, and open innovation results from a chain of interaction between members of the network and external members. So this slide shows an overview of the main components that make up this model, where you have stage of product development from the beginning till final product, process group, interface to support the knowledge exchange between the members of the network, and types of knowledge. You apply this model to development of an electric car. This graph illustrates at a macro level the full picture of this open innovation network. And for instance, you can see here, for instance, for this process is supported by this type of knowledge. And for instance, you have here a representation of exchange of knowledge between members of members of this open innovation network and external members. So, in terms of challenge, as I said at the beginning of this seminar, there are many issues and problems to solve, such as network resilience analysis. For instance, if I remove one actor from the network, what happens in terms of network performance? Analyze the actor behaviors in terms of network sustainability. In the next slides, I will show you how you can apply graphs to predict the evolution of the network based on actors' behavior. Risk analysis is always a huge problem. And the development of predictive models based on dynamic network analysis and causal models, that is a kind of graph, I believe could provide good answers to some of these challenges. So, taking into account the cognitive balance theory, you can analyze the network stability looking to the triad structure. As you can see here, the goal is analyzing the connection among three nodes. And according to this approach, if a triad is positive, it means the product of read lines is positive. So, and you can have here two examples. According to this theory, this structure is stable over time. On the other hand, if the triad is negative, the structure is unstable. So in terms of common sense, we have as example of a stable structure the following sentence. A friend of a friend is a friend, so all connections in this case are positive. And you have another example, an enemy of my enemy is a friend. In this case, you have two connections, negative and one positive. And as example of unstable structure, you have this one, an enemy of my enemy is an enemy. So in this case, all connections are negative. And the last one, a friend of a friend is an enemy. In this case, you have two positive connections and one negative connection. So based on this theory, on this approach, an unstable trade will change over the time to a stable structure. Applying this principle and taking into account this example, starting from this unstable network, this network will change to one of those three options in the future. So the first one, it changed this negative connection by a positive one, and all connections are positive and all are friend. The second option, it changed this positive connection by a negative and became enemy. And the last option is quite similar to previous one. It changed this positive connection by a negative connection and became also enemy. So applying this approach to this collaborative network, we can conclude this network is stable because, as you can see here, this trade is positive. This one is also positive, and you have also this one, and this one is also positive. But now let's suppose a new connection established between these two nodes, as you can see here. And in order to maintain the network stability, what kind of connection should it be? Positive or negative? So according to this trade, should be negative. But according to this trade, should be positive. So it means that you have a dilemma, and this approach must be adapted to collaborative networks. And this means that some research is needed to solve this dilemma. So, in terms of conclusion, I'd like to emphasize some remarks. A better understanding of the cooperation benefits and the role of social capital represents a key precondition for emerging cooperative behavior. The definition of a set of indicators tailored to cooperative or collaborative networks and models will not only help to better understand the area, but also to support decision making. And the last but not the least, the proposed models, although simplistic, they have the advantage of providing a visual graphic representation which is easy to understand and can be a useful instrument for manager to support decision-making process. And thank you for your attention. Sorry for the time.
Thank you, Antonio, for your very nice presentation. And now we shall start our period of questions and answers, if you want. And I would like to ask you, if possible, to connect your cameras in order to have a more interesting discussion and more happy. So I would like to ask if someone wants to to put a question to Antonio and to know something more about his work? Anyone? Are you
No
afraid?
questions is fine. It's great.
Are you afraid? Antonio, yeah. Yes?
Yes.
Someone would like to put a question? So if not, I will like to ask you a question, because you know it's your work, your field of research is not my field, of course. And I would like to ask, I have two questions, but one it's for the end. When you want to do, for example, like this Brisa case study, how do you get data from them? You need to get all the data to establish your graphs and then to analyze it and to check the connections and all the interactions you need to know. You must get data from the companies. This is
Yes.
an easy process. What kind of data do you need from them to establish your graphs and then to pursue your analysis?
So, sorry, I need to. The type of data depends of the focus of the study, but mainly the data can be the perception of the members. In the case of the Brisa was based, the data were collected from questionnaires, and it was mainly based on the perception and the number of competencies involved in the project. But the type of data depends of the goal of the type of analysis to do. But the idea, mainly the data must be quantified. Is the goal.
Okay. Rui, I think, do you want to?
Yes. I was putting a question, but I have a problem with my mic.
I cannot. Sorry.
The sound.
Can you hear me?
Your micro, it's.
No.
Is it better now?
I know it's much better.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the question I have is related with the indicators that we can use for measuring the benefit of this approach. So what are the typical indicators that we can use here?
So the indicators are generated based on concepts of graphs. So, and you adapt based on the indicator based on concepts of node degree and centrality is about that, and because the model is a graph, and the idea is try to adapt these mathematical concepts for social structure. Is mainly the purpose of this kind of indicators.
But would you say that would be more case by case from project to project, or would you have some generic indicators?
No, I have some generic indicators, but are limited to the potential of graphs, and I can use it in the several projects. So the indicators are generic.
Yeah, because I would think something like the flow of information around the network would be somehow relevant.
For me, I cannot listen to you, sorry.
So I was saying that I would think that the flow of information around the network, the flow of data around the network would be somehow a measure of the benefits of the approach. Make sense?
Yes, yes, could be possible to do that, but the idea is try to focus for enterprise. The concept of benefits is mainly you are talking about money or exchange of money. It's one kind of benefit in terms of tangible benefit. What the other set of benefits is more intangible benefits, is a kind of relationship that enterprise establish among them, and in this case it's more difficult to quantify this, but
sometimes more important.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Rui. Thank you, Antonio. More questions? Don't be afraid. No? Antonio, they don't have any question.
Okay, that's great. It's fine.
It's perfect.
It's perfect. Now, Professor Camarinha, I suppose.
He has a special question for you.
A difficult one.
No, it's not supposed to be difficult. It's just because everybody's shy to ask questions.
Yeah.
I have one that is about the indicators and the validity or the importance of the indicators is something that is, let's say, difficult to prove. It depends on the acceptance by the community. So if the community of enterprises accepts the set of indicators that you, for instance, propose, then they are good indicators. If not, they are not good. Is this true, or do you have a different perspective?
Of course, this is true. But merely this kind of indicators, focus is about cooperation. What is my role in terms of belonging to a network? Why I choose one partner A and not the partner B is more related with this kind of process. Is not indicators in terms of individual performance. The focus is analyze the relationship between the members. But of course, if the community accept that, great. But if not, okay.
Thank you. More questions?
May I?
Yes, Luis?
Okay, so good afternoon. Thank you, Antonio, for your presentation. Allow me just a curiosity related with terminology, because in the title of your presentation, you use collaborative. During your presentation, you use almost always cooperative. And in your conclusions, you use collaborative/cooperative or collaborative/cooperative. So, they are synonymos. What's the difference? Why use these two?
Okay, that one is easy because I mentioned, I suppose I don't remember well, in the second slide that I said that for the purpose of this seminar, the meaning of cooperation and collaboration are similar. Because I said that because I can use this model in the collaborative network and also in the cooperative network. So, but I know, according to several authors, like for instance, Professor Camarinha, there are a difference between these two concepts. But I can apply this model in the both context.
Well, thank you for clarification. The reason for my question is that I just could arrive at 07 minutes. Maybe that was your question on 6 or on 5. So I missed that. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Thank you again.
Thank you, Luis. More questions, please? Antonio, can I put you another question?
Yes.
More or less related to the same. When you go to, usually when you need to make this analysis of graphs, this usually initiates in the company and side, asking that they need, they want to make something new, something different. They request this kind of analysis, or is something that usually can start from your side, and you will present to a company, this is your picture, this is your collaborative work, you need to improve here or there. Usually what are the...
So usually it's the second option,
Yeah.
the second scenario.
Yeah.
Yes.
But maybe because in Portugal, the other question that I have from the beginning is exactly something like that. It's if in Portugal that we culturally are not, in my opinion, we are not usually, we are not used, or maybe you are a little bit suspicious about collaborative things, cooperative work. I think it's a cultural thing. Sometimes we have, in my opinion, we have difficulties in establishing this cooperation. Do you think it's also from these kind of questions? Usually they are not alert for this, for the benefits that can come from these interactions.
There are, okay, the application of graphs to support
Work?
decision-making in terms of management is something that is new in Portugal. So, because, and this is the main reason, because I said the second option, the second scenario is the most common. So, because
We don't know.
Nobody in the enterprise know this kind of technique.
Okay. Thank you. Please, do you have more questions to Antonio?
I have a second one, if I may.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so Antonio, on your last slide, you had something related in these conclusions. You have something related with the decision making, supported decision making, and causal effects as well.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate a little bit about these concepts within the proposal that you are doing, and also the relation between them, if there are any?
So, as I said, the main, in my opinion, the main advantage to apply this kind of approach is for end users, you have a picture of or a visual representation of your network, of the reality under study. And this is, in my opinion, the big advantage of this kind of approach. Of course, there are several limitations, and one of them is how to collect the data in real time and to monitoring this kind of analysis. And this is another problem. And I don't have competencies in this area, but if you can solve if we find a solution for that, I think it could be a useful tool for managers, and of course, if they believe in the performance indicators that you get from this kind of analysis. I don't know if I answered to your question.
Yes, I think so. Thank you.
Oh, thank you again. More questions? Anyone? Please, don't be shy. Be curious.
Can I, Anabella?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So good afternoon to you all. First of all, congratulations, Antonio, for your presentation. I am just wondering about one thing that you mentioned at the end of your presentation, that you talked about as a challenge to use dynamic network analysis. Can you explain in what perspective the dynamic network analysis could help in achieving a better result in this subject?
So, because the use of dynamic network analysis, you can forecast or can predict the evolution of the network. So, what I show you is a kind of photo. I take a photo in time 1, I take another photo in time 2, and so on. And in this case, you compare the evolution of photo 1 to photo 2. The dynamic network analysis, I think it's more powerful, and you can predict what kind of evolution will happen in the future. In my opinion, I am not expert in dynamic network analysis, so, but I suppose the potential of dynamic network analysis is something like that. Or if I remove one actor, for instance, you are involved in for instance, in a European project, there are a lot of members. And if one member go out, what happens? So, and the dynamic network analysis can give you some answers in that way.
Okay, thank you, Antonio.
Thank you, Filipa. Any more questions, please? Anyone would like to ask Antonio something more, or?
If you don't mind, I can share you. It is not my work, but it's the work of my PhD student that working in that direction.
There is one question from Kankan, I see.
Yeah, I cannot see to raise hand. Yeah. Kankan, yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Hi, Antonio.
Hi.
Thank you very much for your insightful presentation. I liked it very much. I have one simple question for you. Value co-creation.
I like that question, that kind of question.
Value co-creation is a very essential aspect of collaborations and corporations. Could you please give a little highlight on how you can use this graph theory to assess value co-creation? I'm sorry if I missed that part of your presentation, if it was in your presentation, but otherwise, how are you going to use this graph theory to assess value that is co-created? Thank you very much.
Okay, I will try to answer to your question. So when you talk about, I suppose you talk about innovation or not? Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, fine. So when you talk about innovation, according to this approach, we are talking about what is important is the knowledge. Mainly the focus is developing new knowledge. So, and if I involve in an open innovation process, if it's increase my type of knowledge. So if someone give me knowledge, so this is a kind of benefits and that I win because I am involved in the open innovation network. So the value creation in this case of innovation is how many types of, or many kinds of new knowledge that I get from a network. I don't know if I answered to your question. I cannot listen to you.
In this context, the value is intangible. What about a context where the value is tangible? For instance, financial benefits or creation of a product.
Okay, this is the intention. Okay, you are right. This is intangible dimension. The tangible dimension, if I develop a product in the collaborative context, so I can earn money when I sell this product, for instance. And I have this opportunity because if I try to do this alone, maybe it was very difficult to get this. This is a tangible dimension.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Quentin. Rui, I think your hand is raised, but it's from the other question, yeah? Yes.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No. More questions? Anyone would like to ask something more to Antonio? No, I cannot. Maybe, Professor Camarinha, if not, maybe you are free, Antonio.
Okay, fine.
So, thank you very much, Antonio, for the presentation, and Annabella for this moderation. So before we go on summer holidays, there will be still another seminar next week. It will be the last before summer, and it will be on Wednesday, the 21st of July. So the speaker for this seminar will be Rui Lopes, and he will talk about energy flexibility. So please come to the next and final session before summer. Okay? So thank you for your participation and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Good afternoon.
Bye-bye. See you.
Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.